Σας καλωσορίζω λοιπόν στο παρόν session. Καλωσορίζω όπως βλέπω την κυρία Ηλιοπούλου, την κυρία Μάλιου, την κυρία Μπρόνη, την κυρία Ευαγγέλου. Περιμένουμε και την κυρία Κουτρουμπή. Ευχαριστούμε και για τη συμμετοχή σας στο συνέδριο. Εμείς είμαστε συνδιοργανωτές. Ο κύριος Πετρόπουλος είναι η ψυχή του συνεδρίου μαζί ως πρόεδρος, μαζί με τον Γιώργη, τον Κυριαζόπουλο, ο οποίος είναι αντιπρόεδρος. Είμαστε και υπέρ της αρχής της ισότητας των δύο φύλων και ως μέλος της Επιτροπής της Ισότητας στο Πανεπιστήμιο Δυτικής Μακεδονίας να μας καλωσορίσει για αυτή και άμα θέλει να μας πει για τις θεματικές, ό,τι θέλετε κυρία Μπρόνη. Το λόγο έχετε.
Σας καλωσορίζω και εγώ με τη σειρά μου στο session, το συγκεκριμένο. Βλέπω ότι θα παρουσιαστούν εξαιρετικά ενδιαφέροντα θέματα, τα οποία άπτονται και των οικονομικών, αλλά θα ήθελα λίγο να τονίσω και λόγω του αντικειμένου μου ένα στοιχείο που το βλέπω κοινό σε όλες τις ανακοινώσεις που θα παρουσιαστούν, το στοιχείο της ποιότητας και της αξιολόγησης. Βλέπω εδώ πέρα quality of government, βλέπω evaluation of financial data, οπότε θα σας ακούσουμε με πάρα πολύ μεγάλο ενδιαφέρον, ακριβώς γιατί πρόκειται για ένα συνδυασμό οικονομικών και στατιστικών αναλύσεων, αλλά και ποιοτικών στοιχείων που κάθε φορά δίνουν μια άλλη όψη και μια ιδιαίτερη βαρύτητα σε οποιαδήποτε οικονομική προσέγγιση. Δεν ξέρω αν θέλει να συμπληρώσει κάτι ο κύριος Βελέντσας.
Εγώ ως νομικός στο PowerPoint που άνοιξε προηγουμένως είδα ένα νομοθέτημα. Οπότε περιμένω εναγωνίως να δω την ανάλυση του θέματος. Λοιπόν, πάμε σύμφωνα με το πρόγραμμα. Ξεκινάει η κυρία Μάλιου με θέμα Quality of Government and Life Satisfaction in Post-Crisis Greece, Safety and Living Conditions Effects.
Καλησπέρα και από μένα. Να σας διαμοιράσω το PowerPoint και να ξεκινήσω την παρουσίαση. Λοιπόν, θα κάνω την παρουσίαση στα αγγλικά. Δεν ξέρω αν υπάρχει κάποιο πρόβλημα.
Κανένα πρόβλημα. Απλά ένα δεκάλεπτο.
Ναι.
3:50 θα σας ενημερώσω.
Οκ, έγινε. Ξεκινάω. So this is the structure of our presentation. We are going to talk about the goal and motivation, the background knowledge, the data and variables, methods, preliminary results, conclusion, and further research. Our research has as a goal the analysis of life satisfaction in Greece as it depended upon subjective safety evaluations and objective crime rates. It is important because it's an issue that has not been studied a lot in Greece, and it's very important. In this study, we differentiate between individual level evaluations of safety and contextual rates of crime, and we analyze them. It's very important because this is a great contribution to police implications in the future in the field of safety. Life satisfaction, according to Denner, is an important component of subjective well-being. Is related to mental health of respondents and is correlated with their future behaviors and actions. It's a valuable tool because the measurement of life satisfaction is the most important tool for policies who aim at improving well-being of citizens. The large number of forces that influence life satisfaction judgments is the information that is given to the respondent at that time, the respondent's move, and the structure of the survey. The congruity between people and their residential environment is a critical parameter, and community quality of life has been for a long time the center of police planning. According to Macrea, the relationship between the objective and subjective indicators of quality of life is weak. On the other hand, DAS supports that objective and subjective conditions are important, but their correlation is not so high. What is more, Serag Eldin suggests that the community of quality of life entails the way entails the way in which it can be used to explore the role of community factors and influences our life quality or assist us in our everyday interactions. So we conclude that safety is the most important, but on the other hand, crime is also important because it bears important social and economic costs. The lower social protection expenditures, the lower social trust are factors that induce both fear of crime and feelings of unsafety. Fear of crime cannot be defined, and in Zarafonitou study in 2009, we meet with a paradox, which is although we have low victimization, we have high fear of crime. Dolan tried to measure the burden of crime, and he conceptualized fear of crime as tangible and intangible costs. And then they categorize it in health and non-health losses. Moore talked about impact of fear on happiness and proposes a way to measure the economic value of reducing fear. Braden-Price divided in direct and indirect costs of crime, and Dolan expanded the list of intangible costs to the emotional and physical effects of crime. Further expansion of this list of the intangible costs made by Dolan and Bisgood and included changes in the behavior and the view of society and health-related psychological costs. Zarafonitou in 2004 talks about the dissatisfaction of Greek citizens, which they were not pleased with traditional penal policy, the increase in crime rates, and their fear of crime in such an environment. Here are our hypotheses. Number one, perceived insecurity and feeling of unsafety negatively affect people's quality of life evaluations. Local crime rates negatively affect people's evaluation of quality of life, and these are two the core hypotheses of our study. The socio-demographic profile of citizens affect the evaluation of quality of life. The economic profile of citizens affects the evaluation of quality of life. The living environment of citizens affects their evaluations of life. Hypothesis number 5 is the only one that was not verified. All others were verified. And higher institutional efficacy positively affects people's evaluations quality of life. The data were drawn from the Eurobarometer 2018 and consisted of 1,012 individual level observations. We had 2 variables, 1 dependent and 6 independent. In particular, we had the binary coded variable taking the value of 1 in the case of responses reporting positively about life evaluations, and taking the value 0 in case they were not satisfied very much or not satisfied at all. The independent variables were divided in 5 sets referring to individual level and 1 set referring to contextual level. This is the life satisfaction that I was talking to you before, that the life satisfaction 1 for a person that is a lot or fairly satisfied, and 0 for those that are not satisfied at all. Our preliminary results. Our results show that positive life satisfaction evaluations are highly associated with trust in public administration authorities and the national governments. We concluded to the fact that both safety and crime affects people's evaluations of life satisfaction, and we are convinced that multi-level techniques in the future could give us an insight in the effects that individual and contextual factors exercise upon life satisfaction. What is more, the use of longitudinal data can account for time variations, and more detailed data sets can give us more important information about the individual level. And as far as the policy implication is concerned, the existence or the lack of policies in the field of safety is critical determinant of citizens' life satisfaction evaluation. On the other hand, there are people that already feel satisfied only by the fact that they have not been victims, despite the high crime rates, and because of the fact that they feel that they are in a position to counter the economic cost of private crime prevention measures. In both cases, the demand for safety as a public good increases, and the provision of this good at local, regional, or even national level should be at the center of policy initiatives with regard to improving people's life. Both issues render further research in the future. That was all. Thank you for your time.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ.
Νομίζω ήμουν εντός χρόνου.
Νομίζω και εγώ ότι είστε εντός χρόνου. Έχετε κρατήσει το δεκάλεπτο. Εξαιρετικά ενδιαφέρουσα η παρουσίασή σας και όπως συμπλέξατε τους όρους, τη δημόσια διοίκηση με την ικανοποίηση ή με το πόσο καλά δουλεύει κάθε πολίτης εφόσον η δημόσια διοίκηση δουλεύει και αυτή καλά και ικανοποιεί τα αιτήματα των πολιτών. Υπάρχει λοιπόν αυτή η στενή σχέση πολίτη, κοινωνίας και δημόσιας διοίκησης, πολύ σημαντικό. Εγώ θα μείνω λίγο στο παράδοξο, αυτό λίγο αν μπορείτε να το εξηγήσετε λίγο καλύτερα, το παράδοξο με δύο λόγια, σχετικά με το έγκλημα, με το crime που είπατε. Πώς είναι δυνατόν να θυματοποιούνται λιγότερο οι πολίτες, παρόλα αυτά το έγκλημα να φουντώνει σαν διαδικασία.
Είναι σαν, πριν να απαντήσει την κυρία Μάλιου, είναι σαν το φαινόμενο αυτό, είμαστε σε καραντίνα και τα θύματα αυξάνουν.
Ναι.
Το λόγο έχει.
Δεν ξέρω αν μπορώ να το συσχετίσω με την καραντίνα, γιατί εκεί έχει να κάνει και με την πιστή εφαρμογή των μέτρων. Όμως με τη θυματοποίηση είναι η αντίληψη που έχει ο καθένας. Κάθε φορά πιστεύει ότι έχει απέναντί του ένα κίνδυνο και πιστεύει ότι υπάρχει έλλειψη ασφάλειας, παρόλο που αντικειμενικά τα στοιχεία είναι αυτό που λέμε, ότι η υποκειμενική αντίληψη και τα δεδομένα. Αυτά που έρχονται σε σύγκρουση. Έτσι λοιπόν, τα δεδομένα δείχνουν ότι δεν υπάρχει λόγος ανησυχίας. Παρόλα αυτά, η αντίληψη του καθενός είναι ότι ζει σε ένα περιβάλλον που δεν του παρέχει την απαιτούμενη ασφάλεια, την επιθυμητή ασφάλεια. Αυτό είναι το θέμα, το αντικειμενικό και το υποκειμενικό.
Ακριβώς αυτό είναι το επιχείρημα και στην Αμερική για να σταματήσει η ελευθερία πώλησης όπλων. Ότι τελικά δεν υπάρχει τόσο μεγάλος κίνδυνος, άρα κακώς ανησυχούν οι πολίτες, άρα κακώς στρέφονται γιατί είναι ελεύθερη η απόκτηση όπλων. Δηλαδή αυτό είναι και το επιχείρημα που επικρατεί στις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες. Είναι η άποψη αυτών οι οποίοι θέλουν να σταματήσει η ελεύθερη πώληση όπλων. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ, κυρία Μάλιου. Κάποια ερώτηση δεν βλέπω να μας έχουν στείλει. Οπότε συνεχίζουμε τη δεύτερη εισήγηση με την κυρία Ηλιοπούλου με το θέμα National System of Electronic Public Procurement. Νομίζω εδώ είναι τα νομικά, έτσι.
Είναι απλά αναφορά στους νόμους που έχουν επιβάλει την ηλεκτρονική πλέον να γίνεται η προμήθεια και η διαδικασία της σύμβασης ηλεκτρονικά. Αυτό εννοούμε. Οπότε, άμα θέλετε να ξεκινήσω και εγώ με την παρουσίαση.
Βεβαίως.
Ωραία. Ωραία, θα ξεκινήσω και εγώ την παρουσίαση στα αγγλικά. This presentation refers to the National System of Electronic Public Procurement, and it refers to the law 4412 that was implemented in 2016 regarding the e-procurement that is now obligatory to the public sector. So in the public sector, we can see that there is a huge volume of contracts and procurement processes in all the years and in all the forms of public sector. It used to be a traditional public administration, but now we have transmitted to in-government. The reasons are mainly to reduce bureaucracy and be more effective, reduce the cost and the time they used for the procurement and the signature of the contract. The benefits are definitely those. With the citizens. So the in-government base in public administration before 2000 we have limited use of technology for procurement, but since then there are some programs that have been implemented effectively for more electronic and digital public sector, such as the pilot program of Ariadne, the AVIA, SysExis, and the SCDs program, which refers mainly to the electronic procurement. The laws that there are many laws that implemented the use of the electronic procurement, and there are many amendments since then. The first one was in 2011. The electronic contracts are concluded by electronic means, meaning that not only the process of the procurement, but also the contract and the signature between the participants are electronic. So meaning that we don't have any more printed forms, but we have digital forms and electronic signatures. These are in the purpose of the electronic procurement is mainly the reduction of mismanagement of contracts, the anti-corruption and the protection of suppliers. And we have both benefits, economic and qualitative, as mentioned before, from cost saving and time saving, and less bureaucracy, of course. The electronic tenders were implemented with the law 442 in 2016, and its adoption was imposed by the European Union, so it's obligatory for the public sector to have electronic e-procurement. The assignment methods for the tenders are the open procedure, the closed procedure, the direct assignments, the short procedures, and the electronic procedures. That varies mainly from the amount that will be used in the amount of the contracts, and where it is mandatory the use of SCDs, which is the electronic program, is for the electronic procedures of amounts above 60,000 euro. Of course, there are some disadvantages apart from the advantages mentioned above, that will be mainly from the suppliers, that they will have to have some programs, and that might increase the cost, for example, for implementing the electronic signature. They have to be sure about the system security and the data security. And there are some weaknesses. When there is a lot of data in the system, it may not respond correctly. So the SCDs is the system that we now talk about. It's a system where the tenders are made and the contracts are signed, and it's a system for the communication between the public sector and the suppliers. We have a municipality of Kalamata in order to see how it was implemented in the municipality of Kalamata and what are the results of the implementation. So we can see that, for example, in the finance department, there is an increase of electronic competitions since 2014 until last year. Of course, not all the competitions electronically because it's not obligated to use this system, but we can see the increase of the use of the system. The same exists in other departments. For example, the development department, which initiated the electronic competitions since 2019. For example, the waste management and recycling department also increased the electronic competitions throughout the year, but not so many as the other departments. The geotechnical department also have the electronic competitions. They don't have implemented so much as the other departments, so they still use the handwritten forms. So in total, we can see here that the electronic competitions in the municipality of Kalamata have been increased very much since 2014. And here we have the objections to the electronic tenders made in the municipality of Kalamata. So since 2014, we had about 100 electronic competitions, and only to 9 competitions have been, there are objections regarding the process and the results, meaning that we consider it's a successful, that the system has been used successfully. Here we have an analysis of the objections per category of competition. We can see that in figures there are some number of objections, but this kind of contracts are made very sparse throughout the year, meaning that we have a high volume of this kind of contracts, and only few objections to the other type of contracts. So, to conclude, we can see that in government is important for the modernization of the public sector, including the municipalities. It is obligatory, it's mandatory to use this system of e-procurement for amounts higher than €60,000 since 2016. And the municipality of Kalamata have a percentage of electronic contracts of about 36%, which is it's a small one, and we can increase it further. But it's the objections of the electronic competitions is really it's not so high, but it can further be reduced. We don't consider it high, but considering that they have to pay a fee in order to have objections, we think that it will be further reduced. Thank you.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ για την παρουσίασή σας. Εξαιρετική παρουσίαση, εξαιρετικά ενδιαφέρον το θέμα σχετικά με την ηλεκτρονική διακυβέρνηση. Ακριβώς είναι όπως τα παρουσιάσατε. Μάλιστα παρουσιάσατε και για την ειδικότερη κατηγορία περιφέρεια το Δήμο Καλαμάτας, έτσι. Πολύ ενδιαφέρον. Νομίζω βέβαια ότι ακόμα βρισκόμαστε εδώ στην Ελλάδα συνολικά, στα αρχικά στάδια. Έχουμε ακόμα δρόμο για να πούμε ότι βρισκόμαστε σε ένα καλό σημείο εξυπηρέτησης μέσω της ηλεκτρονικής διακυβέρνησης.
Σωστά.
αν μου επιτρέπετε να πάρω και εγώ το λόγο, ο νόμος 4412 για τις δημόσιες συμβάσεις έργων προμηθειών και υπηρεσιών, ο οποίος εναρμόνισε το ελληνικό δίκαιο στην οδηγία 24 του 2014, είναι καινοτόμο, ανέτρεψε κατά πολύ μεγάλο, συντριπτικά μεγάλο ποσοστό, πάνω από το μισό, όσα γνωρίζαμε μέχρι εκείνη τη στιγμή για τις δημόσιες συμβάσεις. Απλά, αν μου επιτρέπετε να συνεισφέρω, επειδή είδα ότι τα μνημονεύετε μέσα, την Διάβγεια, την Αριάδνη, τη Σύντριμνα κλπ. Είναι υποχρέωση, σύμφωνα με τον νόμο, ανάρτηση σε αυτούς τους ιστοτόπους των συμβάσεων που έχουν αναρτηθεί, που έχουν συναυθεί. Το ερώτημα είναι το εξής. Η ανάρτηση σε αυτούς τους τόπους, στη Διάβγεια, ας πούμε, ή στη Σύζευξη, στην Αριάδνη, είναι προϋπόθεση του παραδεκτού ή προϋπόθεση του ενεργού της σύμβασης? Δηλαδή, αν δεν αναρτηθεί στη Διάβγεια, δεν υπάρχει, ή υπάρχει απλά πρέπει να αναρτηθεί για να αποκτήσει, για να γίνει ενεργή η σύμβαση? Είναι ένα θέμα.
Να παρέμβω.
Το έλυσε πρόσφατα το Συμβούλιο της Επικρατείας, ότι πρέπει απλά από δεν είναι άκυρη σύμβαση ή ανυπόστατη αν δεν αναρτηθεί στη Διάβγεια. Υπάρχει, απλά για να αρχίσει να τρέχουν, για να υλοποιηθούν οι όροι του ενεργού, πρέπει να ανέβει όπου προβλέπεται στις διατάξεις. Και ακριβώς εδώ είναι το θέμα της Διάβγειας, της διαφάνειας μάλλον, στις δημόσιες συμβάσεις, το θέμα της ανάρτησης, για να υπάρχει πρόσβαση του κοινού σε αυτές. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ για την ωραία εισήγηση.
Θα μπορούσα λίγο να παρέμβω?
Βεβαίως.
Απλά ήθελα να σας πω ότι από εμπειρία, αν δεν ανέβει στο Διάβγεια, δεν δέχεται ο Επίτροπος να πληρωθεί το οποιοδήποτε ένταλμα που έχει ξεκινήσει από μία σύμβαση που έχει ανέβει στο Διάβγεια. Δηλαδή δεν είναι απλά ότι ανεβαίνουμε για πληροφόρηση, είναι θέμα νομιμότητας.
Συγγνώμη, ξεκίνησα και είπα, το πρόβλημα το οποίο είχε ανακύψει στην επιστήμη πριν βγει η απόφαση του Συμβουλίου Επικρατείας είναι αν πρόκειται για προϋπόθεση του παραδεκτού, αν υπάρχει δηλαδή η σύμβαση, ή προϋπόθεση ενεργοποίησης των όρων του παραδεκτού, των όρων της σύμβασης. Ακριβώς ο Επίτροπος δεν δέχεται να πληρωθεί, διότι δεν έχει ενεργοποιηθεί. Αν δεν ανέβει στη Διάβγεια, αν δεν ανέβει στην Αριάδνη ή στη Σύζευξη, δεν ή στην Δέσεις και λοιπά που έχει 4-5 ακόμα στο τόπο, φυσικά δεν θα πληρωθεί, διότι δεν έχει ενεργοποιηθεί η σύμβαση. Υπάρχει, αλλά δεν έχει ενεργοποιηθεί.
Είναι όμως μεγάλη διαφάνεια, είναι διαφανής όλη η διαδικασία, συμφωνώ, αλλά δεν έχουν καταπολεμήσει τη μεγάλη γραφειοκρατία, έστω και ηλεκτρονικά. Προσωπική ταπεινή μου άποψη.
Ναι, έτσι είναι. Κοιτάξτε όμως, επειδή έχουμε ξεφύγει σε αυτές τις καταστάσεις. Δηλαδή, αν κοιτάξετε τώρα στη Διάβγεια, τώρα πριν από λίγο κοίταξα για κάποιο λόγο, κάτι ήθελα να δω. Λοιπόν, αγοράσαμε τώρα στο Πανεπιστήμιο Δυτικής Μακεδονίας μια ξύστρα, μια γομουλάστιγα και ένα στυλό διαρκείας. 1,25. Τώρα, συγγνώμη, υπάρχει άνθρωπος ο οποίος χάλασε 2 λεπτά από τη ζωή του και από τον ενεργό χρόνο του για να ανεβάσει αυτό το τέτοιο τώρα. Ή θα πρέπει να τα ανεβάσουμε μαζεμένα, ή τέλος πάντων δεν γίνεται να καθόμαστε να ασχολούμαστε τώρα με 1,25. Εγώ σας λέω, αντί και έγινε το 1,25, μη ορθή σύμβαση. Τώρα για 1,25, εδώ 840 δις χρεώσαμε το ελληνικό κράτος. Τα 1,25 θα μας σώσουν. Δηλαδή, σωστό, ναι, στις δημόσιες συμβάσεις, στα δημόσια έργα, στις προμήθειες κλπ. Αλλά ως ένα μέτρο, δηλαδή να είναι από ένα ποσό πάνω, έτσι ώστε να αποφευθεί η γραφειοκρατία. Διαφορετικά θα επιβεβαιώνουμε καθημερινά το Max Weber. Άλλος κανείς θέλει να παρέμβει, κάτι να κάνει καμιά τέτοια απ' έξω, ερωτήσεις δεν έχουμε, άρα συνεχίζουμε κανονικά. Για κάποιο λόγο, ευτυχώς, μου γύρισε. Λοιπόν, συνεχίζουμε την επόμενη εισήγηση, πάλι από την κυρία Ηλιοπούλου. Financial analysis of the municipalities based on financial ratios. The case of the municipality of Kalamata. Την Καλαμάτα είστε την κυρία Ηλιοπούλου?
Από την Καλαμάτα είμαι, ναι.
Δεν το καταλάβαμε. Συνεχίζετε.
Ωραία, ευχαριστώ.
Έχετε άλλα 10 λεπτά.
Okay. In this presentation, we have the financial analysis of the municipalities based on the financial ratios. We will talk specifically for the municipality of Kalamata. In the accounting principles, there are differences between the private companies and the public sector. The basic principles that apply to the public sector are the principle of autonomy, the principle of obligation of stock of expenditures and revenue, and the principle of preparation of the operating profit or loss with the accounting entries. In the public sector, they use both accounting methods of apographic and typographic, meaning the cash basis to the accrual basis. The fundamental accounting principles are the same, meaning that we have the same with the companies and the public sector, meaning that we have the principle of historic cost, the principle of revenue recognition, the matching principle, the objective principle, the disclosure principle, and the principle of consistent accounting methods. And the characteristics of the financial statements that apply also to the public sector are the understandability and the reliability, relevance, timeliness, consistency, and comparability. The financial statements provide us information about the income and the revenue types, the use of the income that the municipality have, the source of financing, the profit and loss statement, the receivable and the liability account, and the income expenses and the assets of its local authority. And in the financial statements, the local authorities have the obligation to present the balance sheet, the income statement, the movement schedule of the retained earnings, the notes of financial statements. The ratios are important for the analysis of the financial statements because the ratios can provide us a time analysis and an industry analysis. So meaning that we can compare the same local authority throughout the years, and this local authority with other local authorities is the same as in other companies and financial statements. The ratios of the municipalities, the municipalities have to calculate the ratios based on the decision of the Minister of Interior 7472 of 2010. There are some types of ratios, but the main of them are the financial statement structure ratios, the profitability ratios, the liquidity ratios, the capital structure ratios, and the turnover ratios. So regarding the case study, we have a single case of the municipality. The first application of the tertiary degree that refers to the application of the local authorities of financial statements. The first application in the municipality of Kalamata was in 2007. So we have made an analysis of the main ratios mentioned above throughout the years 2014 until 2018, because these are the most recent data that are published so far. So regarding the profitability ratios, we have analyzed the ratio of return on equity, the return on assets, the ratio return on total capital employed, and the net profit margin. We can see that there is a small decrease since 2014, and the profit had turned into loss in 2018. Unfortunately, we don't have a more recent data in order to see if it's one case or if the loss is going to continue. We have also analyzed the liquidity ratio, and we have both. We have analyzed the general liquidity ratios, the cash liquidity ratios, and the receivable and cash liquidity ratios. We can see that the mainly the cash ratio has increased since 2014, and the general special liquidity ratio that also includes the receivables have a strong decrease since 2014 and then increases until this date. We have also seen the capital structure ratio, meaning that we have analyzed the debt and equity. As we consider it to be reasonable, the equity is the most significant part of the total capital, and you can see for local authorities, and they have a minimum external debt, and this is almost consistent throughout the year. We have also analyzed the turnover ratios, and we can see that they are also almost stable but increasing a little bit in the last years. And we have analyzed the receivable turnover, the total assets turnover, and the fixed assets turnover. We have also calculated the liquidity ratios for a period of 8 years, since 2018 until this date, in order to see the trend of the liquidity ratios. We can see that the liquidity is increasing, apart from 2014 that it was highly increased, and then we had a small decrease, but the whole trend is increasing throughout the year. And we have also seen the ratio of loans versus equity, meaning the coverage of the loans as part of the whole equity. As mentioned before, the loans, the external debt is quite lower than the total amount of equity and loans. And we can see that it was since 2011, it's decreasing until 2014 more or less, and then it is increasing again. So from the above analysis, we have concluded that the financial crisis has also affected the municipalities because they have to fulfill their obligations, but the funds they receive are more restricted. Considering the financial situation of the municipality of Kalamata, we have seen that it's not, they don't have extremely high amount of debts. They can meet the obligations. There can be autonomous but not independent, because it's a local authority. And we have seen that the receivables are increasing throughout the years, and we consider that because they are trying to seize the debtors and have them including the financial statements and receive this kind of money that they owe to the municipalities. Thank you.
Ευχαριστούμε πάλι την παρουσιάστριά μας εδώ, την εισηγήτριά μας για την εξαιρετική της εισήγηση και πάλι, πιο εξειδικευμένη αυτή τη φορά στα οικονομικά.
Τα λογιστικά, full.
Πιο εξειδικευμένη στο Δήμο Καλαμάτας, ακόμα πιο εξειδικευμένη. Παρουσιάσατε την οικονομική κατάσταση του Δήμου ανά τα χρόνια της κρίσης. Θα μείνω μόνο στο τελευταίο που γράψατε πολύ σωστά και θα κάνω ένα παραλληλισμό με το Πανεπιστήμιο που λέτε ότι είναι αυτόνομο αλλά όχι ανεξάρτητο. Ακριβώς όπως συμβαίνει και στο Πανεπιστήμιο. Δηλαδή, έχουμε ένα δρόμο μακρύ να διανύσουμε μέχρι να φτάσουμε να είμαστε self-funded, που λέμε. Δηλαδή, να έχουμε τις επιδοτήσεις, να τις χειριζόμαστε οι ίδιοι και φυσικά να αναπτυσσόμαστε με αυτονομία, φτάνοντας πια στο όριο, στο στόχο της αυτονομίας, όπως είπατε. Ωραία. Δεν ξέρω τι μελέτζας.
Εγώ απλά θα επισημάνω να σας συγχαρώ, πολύ ωραία η προσέγγιση του θέματος, κυρίως από τη λογιστική του πλευρά, να επισημάνω το εξής. η υπουργική απόφαση που μνημονεύσατε είναι του 2010. Το θέτω ως προβληματισμό. Η υπουργική απόφαση του 2010 έχουμε ήδη με το 4308 του 2014 τα ελληνικά λογιστικά πρότυπα, τα οποία προβλέπουν ακριβώς των χρηματοοικονομικών καταστάσεων. Δεν έχει εναρμονιστεί η υπουργική απόφαση. Γιατί την πηγαίνουν, τη συνδέουν μάλλον με τους ΚΑΠ που αντιμετωπίζεται από τη γενική κυβέρνηση πάνω σε θέματα προϋπολογισμού. Με αποτέλεσμα να έχουμε αρκετές παρεκκλήσεις από τις γενικές αρχές που καθορίζουν τα ΕΛΟΠΟΥ. Αυτό απλώς προς επισήμανση. Νομίζω ότι κάποια στιγμή πρέπει να γίνει η εναρμόνιση ή κάποιος να ασχοληθεί για ποιο λόγο, τι υπάρχει δηλαδή στους Δήμους. Και προσέξτε στο άρθρο 6 που έχει τους αριθμοδείκτες ακριβώς, η νέα αρρύθμιση είναι εντελώς διαφορετική περί των αριθμοδικτών με στον 4308. Λοιπόν, ευχαριστούμε και πάλι, συγχαρητήρια. Τώρα η κυρία Κουτρουμπή έχει μπει, θα συνεχίσουμε με την κυρία Ευαγγέλου. Λοιπόν, Βιβί, θα πάρεις το λόγο, θα μας αναπτύξει το θέμα. Περίμενε λίγο εδώ να το βάλουμε, γιατί...
όχι, η κυρία Κουτρουμπή είναι εδώ πέρα. Κυρία Κουτρουμπή.
Εντάξει, γιατί μπαινοβγαίνει γι' αυτό. Τώρα ακούγεστε.
Καλησπέρα. Είχα μια τεχνική δυσκολία.
Ωραία.
Έχουμε βάλει άλλα μέσα για να συνδεθούμε, όμως δεν πτωούμαστε.
Ωραία. Οπότε συνεχίζετε εσείς κανονικά σύμφωνα με το πρόγραμμα.
Ωραία. Θα προσπαθήσω όσο το δυνατόν, γιατί είναι μέσω άλλης... ένα λεπτάκι, παρακαλώ.
Έχω την εντύπωση ότι έχει πετάξει έξω από το σύστημα.
Να προχωρήσουμε, λέτε, με την επόμενη παρουσίαση της κυρίας Ευαγγέλου και να επανέλθουμε.
Συνεχίζουμε με την παρουσίαση της κυρίας Ευαγγέλου, Cultural Economics and Development, Educational Program in a Greek Museum, Effect Financially the Local Community. Και από πού είναι αυτό το σχέδιο εδώ τώρα, κυρία Ευαγγέλου? Βγάλε την...
Ανοίξτε το μικρόφωνο, κυρία Ευαγγέλου.
Νομίζω πως τώρα με ακούτε.
Ωραία. Πατήστε κάτω δεξιά. Ωραία.
Ωραία. Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me clearly. I am Evangelou Paraschevi, and I am a PhD candidate of University of Western Macedonia. The title of the paper is Cultural Economics and Development, Educational Programs in a Greek Museum Affect Financially the Local Community. The purpose of the paper is to present the visits of students to the Archaeological Museum of Theani for the period 2015-2020, to study the way that affects the local community economically, and to clarify and present the opinion that the local business world about these visits. The museum has integrated for about 20 years in its activities and systematically implements a set of educational programs aimed at students. Programs concerns many and various thematic units. The topics are related to the daily life of ancient inhabitants of the Kingdom of Ancient Elyria, their public and private life, diet, religion, and clothing, various craft activities such as pottery, terracotta, and inscriptions. The purposes of the educational programs are the contact of the children with the past and the history, the development of their critical thinking, the socialization through their participation in group activities, and the development of their cultural consciousness, which finally, they will turn students into future visitors. An online questionnaire has been used, which was answered by 27 people in the provincial city. 14 of them were men and 13 were women. It took place with Google Forms, began on the 30th of October and concluding on 11 December of the current year, and used Likert scale. Male respondents consisted 51.9%. 48.1% belong to the age category 40 to 59 years old. 52% of the companies have been present in the local market more than 15 years, and 66.7% of them belong to the gaming industry. 77.8% of the business persons believe that the museum is not advertising satisfactorily. 85.2% have the opinion that the event known as Lazarines should be more advertised. The number of students and their companions who came to the museum for the years 2015-2020 is decreasing, resulting in visitors to be only 83 in the current year, as we can clearly see in this graph. The opinion of business persons seems to follow the downward trend which visits had in these years. Specifically, for the years 2015-2016, the 90% of the respondents answered always, often, and sometimes. The following 2 years, 81% mentioned often, sometimes, and rarely. Unfortunately, and finally, in the last 2 years, 96% answered never. Firstly, 48% of the business persons admit that the students who visit the museum do not go to their business. However, only 32% of them believe that their business is financially supported by these visiting students. Nevertheless, 75% of them believe that the local market and community are supported by the students. Concluding, the number of students decreases within the 6 years we studied. 96% of business persons state that they have not been supported at all by student visits for the period 2019-2020. 75% of them believe that the local market and community are supported by these students. And the local business person believes that the museum and the event known as Lazarines can bring economic growth to the local market. More advertising. Thank you for your attention.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ για την παρουσίαση, την εξαιρετική παρουσίαση, την κυρία Ευαγγέλου. Πολύ ωραία θεματική, πολύ ωραία την έχετε παρουσιάσει. Και τα στοιχεία που έχετε δώσει, τα οικονομικά, τα στατιστικά επίσης είναι αρκετά επαρκή. Πραγματικά έτσι είναι, να σχολιάσω λίγο. Γενικά στο πολιτιστικό κομμάτι και στο κομμάτι των μουσείων και της αξιοποίησης τους θα μπορούσε να υπάρχει το marketing, έτσι, ή να αξιοποιείται το κομμάτι αυτό της διαφήμισης στο πολιτιστικό θέμα της αξιοποίησης, ακριβώς γιατί βλέπουμε υπάρχουν πάρα πολλά αρχαία, πάρα πολλά μνημεία τα οποία είναι αυτή τη στιγμή παραγωνισμένα ή τέλος πάντων δεν προβάλλονται όπως θα έπρεπε να προβληθούν. Είναι ζητήματα πολιτιστικής διπλωματίας από τη μία, θα μπορούσαμε να το εντάξουμε σε έναν ευρύτερο τομέα την πολιτιστική διπλωματία, εξαιρετικά ενδιαφέρον. Και από την άλλη βέβαια είναι ζητήματα marketing και προβολής. Πολύ ωραία παρουσίαση η κυρία Ευαγγέλου. Ναι.
Όπου σε αυτά που είπατε συνδέεται άμεσα η υποστελέχωση των υπηρεσιών. Δυστυχώς δεν μπορούν να υποστηρίξουν λόγω του ότι δεν υπάρχει προσωπικό για να γίνουν αυτές οι δραστηριότητες. Της προβολής, της διαφήμισης και του marketing.
Ακριβώς. Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Δεν ξέρω αν θέλει να πάρει το λόγο, να προσθέσει κάτι.
Δεν ακούγεται.
Λέω, τι να πω εγώ τώρα, όταν οι συγγραφείς και οι Φαρισαίοι και οι συναφείς απεφάρθησαν επί της επιστήμης τους και επί του paper. Λοιπόν, ευχαριστούμε πολύ την κυρία Ευαγγέλο. Μας μένει η κυρία Κουτρουμπή, η οποία από ό,τι φαίνεται...
Η κυρία Κουτρουμπή, από ό,τι φαίνεται, παραμένει εκτός σύνδεσης.
Ναι. Ναι, γιατί βλέπω εδώ ότι είναι και οι participants λίγοι, άρα είναι 10η αυτή, οπότε είναι εκτός.
Ωραία. Άρα, τι γίνεται σε αυτή την περίπτωση?
Θα μας πει η τεχνική υπηρεσία. Ούτως ή άλλως, εμείς έχουμε ακόμα ένα δεκάλεπτο, αν δεν κάνω λάθος.
Ναι, έχουμε ακόμα, ένα τέταρτο.
Έχουμε ακριβώς 11 λεπτά. Οπότε...
Η Κουτρουμπή νομίζω ότι συνδέεται, προσπαθεί να συνδεθεί.
Οπότε, ακριβώς, ναι, είναι ίσα-ίσα για να μας κάνει την εισήγηση.
Ωραία. Θα κάνουμε μια παρουσίαση λίγο.
Μισό λεπτό να πω το θέμα. Μισό λεπτό, σας περίμενα με την κάμερα. Λοιπόν, το θέμα είναι evaluation of financial data of the person on the personal income tax in Greece. Examination of periods 2, 3 to 17 and submission of proposals.
Δυστυχώς έχουμε μία δυσκολία. Μπορώ να πω ότι είχαμε ένα PowerPoint ετοιμασμένο για τεχνικούς λόγους. Δεν μπορεί να γίνει εφικτή η παρουσίαση μέσω PowerPoint. Η παρουσίαση μου είναι Evaluation of Financial Data of Personal Income Tax in Greece, Examination of Time Periods 2003-2017, Submission of Proposals. Είμαι PhD candidate of Department of Public Administration of Pandion University, and we shall begin with the financial data of personal income tax. Δεν ξέρω αν είναι εφικτό αυτή η παρουσίαση. Λοιπόν, the imposition of taxes in modern states serves on the one hand...
Κουτρουμπή, αν επιτρέπετε, κύριε Κουτρουμπή, καλύτερα να μιλάτε εσείς και αν έχετε κάποιο πίνακα με ιστόγραμμα ή κάποια πίτε που θέλετε να μας δείξετε, αυτή μας τη δείχνετε, εντάξει.
Καλύτερα. The imposition of taxes in modern states serves on the one hand fiscal purposes and on the other social political purposes. The state aims primarily at saving the resources that are necessary to serve the needs of all kinds of citizens, public safety, public health, education, administrative justice. It is considered as an obvious duty of the citizens because the tax is not only income, but also a means of exercising economic stabilization and development of the country and social policy combating the unequal distribution of health. The personal income tax was imposed in Greece with the law 3323 of 1955, according to which all incomes are taxed in a uniform way with a progressive rate by income scales. The objective of the personal income tax is the total income that arises in Greece and the income that arises abroad if it is acquired by a person who has his residence in Greece. For the imposition of the tax, on the one hand, the place where the income arises, and on the other hand, the residence of the person who obtains the income are taken into account. From the above data that is submitted here, the table of taxpayers by family income scales, it is evident an expansion of the tax base from 2013 onwards, with the result that more taxpayers participate in the tax burdens. The evolution of personal income tax revenues from 2006 to 2017, from the above data, there is an decrease in both the certified and the collected revenues from the personal income tax during 2011 due to the significant income reduction, and an increase in 2012 with the increase of the tax in all income scales. In recent years, there has been a slight upward trend due to the stabilization of the economy. In 2009 and 2017, the Greek income tax system underwent 4 important structural reforms. In April 2010, affecting the income obtained in 2010, in October 2011, affecting the income obtained in 2011 and 2012, in December 2012, relative with income earned during the period 2013 and 2015, and April 2016, which has an impact on income earned from 2016 onwards. Declared income as income is considered the revenue that comes from each source and is repeated at regular intervals. The new code, which is Article 7, Paragraph 2 of Law 4172, 2013, is during that period classifies gross income as income from paid employment and pensions, income from business, income from capital, and income from goodwill and capital transfer. During the period 2004 and 2010, there was a significant increase in declared income, which was eliminated until 2014 due to income reductions in all sources of income, and the last 3 years there has been a steady process. Exemption and tax-free amounts, the exceptions are dictated by reasons of social welfare, exceptions for the disabled, financial tax-free deposit, demographic, increased tax-free amounts with or without supporting documents for more than 2 children, and for reasons of public or social interest. Personal exceptions apply to foreign ambassadors and other diplomatic agents, and actual or objective exceptions relate to source income, income from real estate, securities, commercial enterprises, hired enterprises. There are also exceptions under special laws, contracts signed between the Greek state and in foreign countries, as well as with foreign companies. The table of exception and tax-free amounts per family income scale shows a very significant increase in the period 2011 to 2017 in all family income scales due to changes in the current legal framework. In 2011 and 2012, the tax-free rate has dropped to 5,000 euros, with the 2013 tax reform increasing to 9,545 euros. In 2016, it decreased to 9,091 euros, and from 2017 onward, it has fallen to current levels. However, with the reduction of the tax-free, the number of taxpayers who showed income below it also increased. The Independent Public Revenue Authority now registered 5,765 individuals with individual income of less than 9,000 euros. In 2015, it was 5,469 individuals. The taxable income is taxed on a tax-by-basis basis. The tax scale is common for calculating the principal tax regardless of the source of category of income earned by the taxpayer. The tax deductions are made for administrative and social justice reasons in order to give further tax incentives to the taxpayer in order to seek the issuance of documents received that will lead to a significant reduction in tax evasion in general. The reduction related to the cost of the rent paid by the taxpayer, life or death insurance premiums of the taxpayer, costs for private lessons or tuition, contribution paid by the taxpayer to the insurance funds and hospital care, amounts of accrued interest paid by the taxpayer for housing loans, amounts paid as a result of donation to non-profit institutions, amounts of non-profit sponsorship of domestic legal entities under private law via electronic transaction card payments. The tax total, that is the amount of the principal tax, is calculated on the total net net income of the taxpayer based on the tax scale. The tax rate is usually progressive because the personal income tax is the main means of distributing income from the highest to the lowest category. The desired reform of the tax system is reflected in the studies and proposals that have been submitted over time by a variety of special committees, scientific bodies, and professional associations. In 2002, the Committee for the Reform of the Greek Tax System proposed that income exceptions should be minimized and only the absolute necessary should be maintained. Such repayment could be considered for sensitive social costs, such as medical and hospital care costs, life or death insurance, personal accident insurance, accrued first home loan interest, and projected child discounts. It concluded that the objective criteria should be abolished. Also, in order to use tax evasion, it is proposed to reduce the nominal tax rate by abolishing the absolutely necessary exception as well as independent taxation of income. The use of high tax rates weakens economic growth, discriminates against a taxpayer, distorts economic activity, and creates an unfair distribution of tax burdens. In 2010, the Athens Bar Association, with a working group of the Ministry of Finance, elaborate and submit specific proposals for the reform of personal income tax. In particular, showed that the tax burdens are borne by those who cannot hide the income, that is, employees and retirees. There are major distortions in the taxation of different income categories, resulting in tax evasion by persons who, while having elements of luxurious living, declare extremely low incomes. There is insufficient application of tax law. Among the proposals is the single progressively indexed tax scale for all incomes with a maximum rate not exceeding 40%. Specifically, it is proposed to deduct expenses from received at a rate of 100%. Tax deductions should not be cut back because they follow the principle of tax justice. It is also proposed to proceed with the electronic interconnection of state bodies and authorities and key market players to have e-government through electronic cross-checking of data in the tax audit to locate files to be audited based on specific criteria using special software. In 2018, in a study by IOVE on income tax in Greece, a comparative analysis was made and proposals were submitted for the reform of the tax system. The performance of the tax system in terms of efficiency at the financial level is unsatisfactory. The real maximum rate is one of the highest in Europe and for a low declared income threshold. It is proposed to reduce the maximum and intermediate rates in order to stimulate business activity, increase employment, and reduce the phenomenon of tax evasion and avoidance, as well as to reduce the amount of overdue debts. With the reduction of the income tax deduction will be obtained in 2020, the expansion of the tax base is underway. It is necessary to evaluate the tax legislation, to simplify it by a group of experts, and to have a stable tax reform framework. To be continued, it's necessary to evaluate the tax legislation, to simplify it by a group of experts, and to have a stable tax framework. Finally, it is proposed the gradual abolition of living presumption for the determination of the tax base through the improvement of the efficiency of tax audits, which will be implemented on a large scale by electronic means. The current regime from the new tax law of 46/2019 introduced significant tax amendments to the personal income tax. The main tax breaks include the introduction of an import rate of 9% for individuals, employees, retirees, farmers, freelance, and sole proprietors in a correction of the rate of 22%. The reduction will benefit all professionals and not just those who have an income below 10,000 euros. Reduction of the corporate tax rate from 28 to 24%. Reduction of the rate on agricultural cooperative vehicles to 10%. The tax-free amount to dismissal of employees up to 60,000 euros and a rate of 10% from 60,000 euros or more. The proposals that have been made and will made is that would be taken and restore the fairness of the tax system. I'm ending my presentation in a little bit. Include phasing out banking secrecy for tax purposes, speeding up the full registration of real estate to improve controls, income tax returns, distribution of tax burden, avoid multiple revision to tax legislation. Tax changes must be notified in a clear and transparent manner. Replacement of the system of objective criteria for assessing taxable persons to broaden the tax base and improve tax compliance incentives. All these, a special committee should be set up with the chairman and members who will have tax knowledge and experience in tax matters. It will assess the impact of the tax system on economic activity, propose measures for fair income distribution and plan a comprehensive tax reform. Thank you very much for attending my presentation.
Ευτυχώς, κυρία Κουτρουπίδη, ότι υπερεύουμε τον χρόνο ήδη και πρέπει να μπουν οι επόμενοι.
Μας ειδοποιούν αυτό ακριβώς, ότι περιμένουν οι επόμενοι.
Ωραία.
Λοιπόν, παρουσίαση και πολύ αναλυτική.
Συγχαρητήρια σε όλους.
Τις εισηγήτριές μας.
Συγχαρητήρια σε όλους σας. Να είστε καλά. Καλή συνέχεια.
Καλή συνέχεια.